Good evening. It is a great honor to be in this theater. At the same time, it is a great injustice. I'm an Italian investigative journalist, and you can ask me why I'm here. I'm here because I have worked on this case for the last 13 years. Why a journalist work 13 years on a case? Of course, not just on this case, but this case keeps me awake at night. Why? Because what I have seen in this case is unique. What I have seen in this case has no other example. I have been a journalist for the last 21 years, 15 in the fields of investigative journalism, and I can assure you that I have never seen a case like this. Had I not seen this in first person, had I not worked on it for the last 13 years, investigating it, litigating an FOI request in the US, in the UK, in Australia, in Sweden, establishing a legal team with 7 lawyers, 2 in the US, 2 in the UK, 2 in Australia, 1 in Sweden, I would never believe what I have experienced in this case. You know, some people tell me this is a complicated case. This is not a complicated case. Anyone can understand this case because any of us has a sense of justice. And this case is a monstrous injustice, as the famous film director, British film director Ken Loach writes in his foreword to my book, Secret Power. Secret Power is my book in which I have reconstructed the full investigation, publishing the full documentation I have been obtained, fighting in courts in US, UK, Australia, Sweden. No one can deny what I have unearthed because the full documentation is mentioned and reconstructed in my book. And in fact, no one has tried to do it. No one has tried to file a libel case against me because what I have documented is real and no one can deny it. I have been on this case from the very beginning, when Wikileaks was in its infancy. It was 2008, and suddenly one of my journalistic sources stopped talking to me. She never attended any appointment with me. She was convinced she was under illegal interception. And of course, there is no way to know whether you are under illegal interception. It must be a paranoia, or it could be a paranoia, or it could be real. Anyway, she disappeared. She didn't want to meet anymore. She had concerns that she might be find out providing sensitive information to me. And it was at that point in 2008 that I realized that I needed better source protection because the old-fashioned techniques which we use are still in use in newsroom all around the world in this day, using mobile phones, using emails, are no longer suitable, are no longer safe. And of course can expose our sources who risk their job, who risk their freedom, who risk serious legal cases to talk to us, to reveal us sensitive information. So, as a background, I'm a mathematician. Before going to journalism, I took a degree in maths. And so I knew that there was such things called encryption, which could protect sources, but I didn't know how to use it. I just had some theoretical knowledge, and I knew that this encryption might help to protect sources. I'm sure you use encryption in these days. You don't realize you use encryption, but I'm sure you use WhatsApp. You use home banking. You don't go to your bank to do bank operation. You don't go to your hospital to get your medical records. You do everything online, and you can do it thanks to encryption. Otherwise, anyone could access your medical records, anyone could access your bank records and could see your bank accounts and so on. So encryption was what put Wikileaks on my radar screen. One of my sources in the field of cryptography told me, you should have a look at a bunch of lunatics. And the lunatics were Julian Assange of Wikileaks. And very few knew Wikileaks and Julian Assange at that time because it had been established just 2 years before. But I was deeply impressed by Wikileaks. They were able to get documents that no one was able to get, such as the Guantanamo manual about the military task force operating Guantanamo. Some of the most prominent civil rights, human rights organizations had tried to get that manual to no avail, so they were unable to get anything. But Wikileaks published it, and I was deeply impressed how they were able to get such documents while other journalists, other human rights organizations were not. And the key was encryption. In the darkness, those were very dark times. After the 9/11, very dangerous people still around, unfortunately. In the darkness of the war on terror, there were many, many people who disagree with brutality they had seen, with torture, with extrajudicial killing. And in the darkness of secrecy, of state secrecy, they were willing to leak these documents to a media organization, the only one in the world, which at that time was using encryption systematically to protect sources. They were confident that such, advanced technologies used by WikiLeaks could protect them and could keep them anonymous. So they were leaking to WikiLeaks and not leaking to the traditional media which used the old-fashioned unsecure techniques. So that was one extremely important, they were pioneers. But that was not only the only thing that deeply impressed me. What also impressed me was the fact that they were willing to publish what no one dared to publish because it was too risky. Like the Guantanamo manual, for example. The Pentagon had asked them to remove it from their website. I have been, as I said, a journalist for the last 21 years, and I never have met a media organization willing to say no to the Pentagon. Everyone is scared about the Pentagon. Their power and influence is projected, is reach every corner of the world. So, those were the years after the 9/11 where journalists and media, unfortunately, were very obedient to the CIA, to the Pentagon. Of course, there were noble exceptions. Seymour Hersh and others were noble exceptions. But for me, that media organization, which was not willing to say yes to the Pentagon, remove the document, that Guantanamo document, was a glimmer of hope in those dark years of journalism. So, I absolutely wanted to know Julian Assange and the WikiLeaks journalists. I didn't know them. But one night, in the middle of the night, they called me. It was a very hot and sticky day, July 2009, and in Italy it was very, very hot. And I was sleeping, and in the middle of the night, my telephone started ringing, and I woke up and I was told, this is WikiLeaks. I could barely understand what was going on in the middle of the night. And I understood that I had an hours to rush to my computers, download the file, and start listening it. It was an audio file. It was an audio file. It was tremendously interesting. It was about alleged negotiations between the Italian mafia and the state on the garbage crisis in Naples, where we had the city of Naples drowning in trash, and the images and the pictures and were hitting headlines around the world. So Wikileaks was asking an Italian journalist to listen the audio file, try to help to verify it, whether it was genuine or whether it was not genuine, and to try to understand the local context of those revelations. So I understood that they were working as a media organization. They were doing what we do, what we journalists do. We get documentation, we verify whether it is genuine, whether it is in the public interest or whether it is gossip, and we publish it once we have established that it's genuine and it is in the public interest. So I published that document, my investigation based on that document. At that time, I was working for the Italian leading news magazine, L'Espresso, with a strong tradition in investigative journalism. And L'Espresso had worked a lot on this negotiation, mafia, state, on the garbage crisis. Garbage is a huge resource for the mafias. They make billions out of trash and trafficking dangerous garbages. And so at that time, it was August 2009, I published that investigation on my news magazine. WikiLeaks published the original document so that anyone could access the audio file and could make an idea for itself. And that was the first time I worked as a media partner of WikiLeaks. August 2009, before they became famous, because they published the collateral murder video and became famous around the world. Since then, I never stopped working on the WikiLeaks document and on the case. I work on the Afghan war logs, Iraq war logs, the cables, the Guantanamo files, on all their documentation. But you have to realize that I have done this work completely safely. No one ever arrested me. No one ever put me in prison. Yes, I experienced some intimidation. I was followed brazenly, aggressively. I was physically attacked in Rome in the middle of the day and stolen important documents which never surfaced again, and the police never have discovered anything. I was spied inside the embassy. My phone was unscrewed, opening two, the SIM was extracted. But in any case, compared to what Julian Assange has gone through, my troubles are nothing. I was even basically put in the condition of leaving my newspaper, the Italian daily La Repubblica, in order to keep doing this work on WikiLeaks, because it was no longer possible. But I would do it again, for sure. And compared to what Julian Assange has experienced, my troubles are absolutely nothing. This is why it is an unbearable injustice that we journalists who have worked on these documents have never ever experienced the hell Assange has gone through. They have destroyed his life. They have destroyed his health. They have taken away the best years of his life, and no one will give him back those years. Even if he comes out free from Belmarsh, let's hope he will, no one will give his back over a decade of his life. For doing what? For doing journalism in its finest form. He's a journalist more than I am. he revealed collateral murder. He and the Wikileaks journalists revealed collateral murder. I didn't, you know? So why I'm free? I'm here with you, and he's not. This case should make you upset. And what I have seen in this case makes me upset. I'm upset about the criminality, the state criminality documented in these files, which is so well documented for the first time. For the first time, we have evidence. We don't just have some educated guess. We have evidence, thanks to this documentation. I was shocked by the fact that people who had the courage and the integrity to expose state criminality at the highest level had no place to hide in our society. I expected a different situation. I expected some kind of protection, but they haven't whatsoever. I was upset by the treatment of Julian Assange, which I have documented day after day. I still remember the last time I met him. It was November 18. I visited him inside the embassy. He was in such bad shape. And I remember I came out of the embassy and I sent an email to my newspaper, La Repubblica, and I wrote, Julian Assange is dying. I'm not exaggerating. And that email reached my editors, and I didn't hear from them for 2 days. After 2 days, my editors contacted me. Stefania, we are trying to contact you over the last 2 days. We sent email, text messages, we called you, and you haven't replied. I had nothing on my phone, nothing on my email. Probably my communication had been completely disconnected. We were spied. We would discover later on, 2 years later, that we were heavily targeted. You don't expect this kind of things in our societies. You expect this kind of things in Russia, in North Korea, Iran. You don't expect, but this is real. This is happening here. It's not Iran that is killing Julian Assange. They are killing. The US and the UK authorities are killing him. When people ask me, do you think they will kill if extradited to the US? They are already killing him. They are already killing him little by little, softly, so that people don't get shocked and don't wake up and get shocked. But they are doing this. They are seriously undermine his health, his physical and mental health. And over the last decade, he has tried every possible, he has tried to get protection from the international law, from the asylum, from the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, which helped him, from the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture. Nothing and no one was able to prevent the destruction of his life and liberty. You realize how little we can fight such injustice in our society. You realize that we are heading to a very dark place with this case, a very dark place, I come from a country which invented fascism. And so I'm very alarmed. I'm very shocked at this case. And that's why I work on this case for the last 13 years. And I have documented everything. And I have been fighting in the court to access these documents because 4 governments are denying me access to this documentation. It means that this documentation contains something which is dynamite. And we know what it contains. It contains evidence of this sadistic, of this cruel persecution with the names of the authority involved in this. I have done this because I want to contribute to live in a society in which you can reveal war crimes, you can reveal torture, You can reveal extrajudicial killing without spending, 8 years in prison, try to commit suicide 3 times as Chelsea Manning did, without having to ask for residency or protection to Russia, or without having your life destroyed once and for all, as Julian Assange risked. This is what makes a difference between dictatorship and democracy. In a dictatorship, you cannot expose state criminality at the highest level. They kill you. In a democracy, it must be possible. That's why we have to win this case, and we have to save Julian Assange. We have to save the Wikileaks journalists, because they are after all of them, and they are after this revolution. Thank you.